So we learned everything vertex form. Now we're going to learn everything standard form. Now the hard part about standard form is you can't get the vertex just like that. So you're going to have to do a little bit of a workout. I don't really care about this right now because we don't have time. It'd be something we would do if I was here. So what they want you to do is decide if it's up or down. Well, what's in front is positive, so it's up. Okay? Now, since it's up, I know that it's a minimum, but I don't know what that minimum is yet because I haven't figured out the vertex. Once I get that, I can get the axis of symmetry, and I can state that. Okay? But something I can find really fast is the y-intercept. I can find the y-intercept really quickly because if I went 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 8, what's anything times 0? 0. What's anything times 0? 0. So really, my y-intercept is just my last value. So I can get the y-intercept just like that. But remember, who has the power? The vertex has the power. So once I get the vertex, the rest of life is easier. So I need to find the vertex. Okay? There's different ways to find it. I'm going to show you one way because I've shown it to you previously. You solve by completing the square. So you go x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. X squared minus 6x equals negative 8. Make your little box. X squared minus 3x, boom. There's your 9. So plus 9, and then you have x minus 3, and you get x minus 3, squared equals negative 8 plus minus 1. And then you move the 1 back over, and you put it in vertex form, which means, boom, we found the vertex. Okay? So if that's what you want to do, you can. You want to complete the square, you can do that. You get x equals 3. It's a min. The min is the vertex, and I'm happy. Another way to do it is there's a formula, okay? The formula is negative b over 2a. So what I would do is my a is 1, and my b is negative 6. And I would go negative, remember my formula, negative b over 2 times a. I'll zoom that in a little bit, sorry about that, and I'll lower it, okay? So then negative of negative 6 is 6, over 2 is 3, that's the x value of my vertex, okay? Let me do another example before I show you the y, okay? So let's say I had y equals 10x squared minus 7x plus 3. My a is 10, my b is negative 7. I go negative b over 2 times a. Negative of negative is positive, 7 over 20. That would be the x value of my vertex. And I would never give you one that mean. Okay? And you wouldn't want to solve it by completing the square, though. So the problem is that if you have a problem like 3x squared minus 6x plus 2, you can't, if you divide out the 3, that looks really uncomfortable. You can still do it. I'm going to make that a plus, actually. But if I just did my formula, which is negative b over 2a, it would be negative 6 over 2 times 3, which is negative 6 over 6, which is negative 1, which would be the x value of my vertex. Okay? So I know I really don't like formulas very much, but honestly, when I'm finding the vertex, this is the one formula I use. Well, and the quadratic formula. And some of you go, how am I going to remember the formula? You know that big formula that you learned, that quadratic formula? Look. They're related to each other. So you don't actually have to remember it. Just look at the quadratic formula, and that's the vertex formula. Okay? So let's come back over here. I got the x value by doing the negative b over 2a, but I didn't get the y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to take the 3, and I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to go 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. 9, and multiply this. Minus 18 plus 8, negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1. Hey, look, that's what I got up here. Okay? So Now let's do the x-intercept. So let me preface by saying this problem works out pretty well for doing solve by completing the square to change it to vertex form. But if you had this problem right here, the negative b over 2a is way more friendly, way more. Now this is not to be confused with the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts is where you set that equal to 0. And since it's in standard form, I am going to factor. So two numbers that multiply to get 8 and add to 6 are 4 and 2. If I set that equal to 0, I get 4, 0. If I set that equal to 0, it's 2, 0. Okay. Now, and by the way, this is how your project is going to look. Now I have to graph it. What goes in the center? The vertex. What do I need to include? I need to include the x-intercept, and I need to include the y-intercept. So I'll go 2, 4, 0, 0, and then 0, 8, 8. If this is plus 2 this way, this is plus 2 this way, 6. Okay. Domain, let me zoom out. Domain, all real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity. Range, y, it's going up, greater than or equal to the y value of my vertex. -1, positive infinity. The intervals are easier for me when I graph it, so let me rough sketch it. So I need 8. I might as well just look here. 1, 2, oops. So 2, 4, 6, 0. So I have 0, 8, 2, 0, 3, -1, 4, 0, and 6, 8. I know it's not a perfect, but you get the idea. Axis of symmetry, make it look like a U, not a V. Now this is negative infinity, positive infinity, negative infinity, positive infinity. And the intervals, have to do with my vertex, 3, -1. So negative infinity to 3. It's going down, decrease, and then 3, 2, positive infinity, increase. And behavior as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches as x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches. Well, we know it's going up. There's my positive infinity, right here, right here. So positive infinity, positive infinity. Okay, let's do one more. All right. This one, because that is negative, that means I'm going down. I can't find the vertex right away because it's in standard form. Life is a lot easier in vertex form to find the vertex. That's why they created it. Okay. Things started with standard form, but then they realized that it wasn't as useful as vertex form. So it's down, so that's a max. And then once I get the vertex, I'll state it. But something I can get super fast is the y-intercept. So I'll do that. Okay. Now, I have a choice. I can divide this by -2. I can set it equal to 0, dot, 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 dot. I end up with x plus 4 squared equals, let's see, that would be -13. I'm just doing the box in my head. 16 equals 3, and you get y equals x plus 4 squared minus 3, because you move back over. Hopefully I did that right in my head, so that would be the vertex. But I am going to practice using the formula, which is -b over 2a. So I'm going to go, let's see, my a is -2, and my b is -16. So -b over 2 times a. Negative of -16 is 16. Over -4 is -4. Oh, look at that. That's what I got. So now I got the x value of my vertex. X equals -4, -4. Okay. Now to get the y value, I take this -4 and I plug it in. Now the only thing is, don't plug it into what you divided by 2. because it's smaller, because then it's not that equation. This has a vertical stretch by a factor of 2 and a reflection over the x-axis. So this right here makes a different graph than this one right here. It doesn't have any vertical stretch. So you've got to plug it into the original. So I'm going to go -2 times -4 squared minus 16 times -4 minus 26. Let me zoom it in a little bit. Square this. Multiply. Multiply. -32 plus 64 is 32. Minus 16 is 16, or minus 26. 32 minus 26 is 6. So I made a mistake somewhere when I did that one. Let me make sure that's right. So let me figure out what mistake I see. Minus 13. I don't know. I've got to figure out what I did wrong. So let me pause it real quick and check it in the calculator. Okay, so I remembered how to trace it. Menu, trace, graph trace. Yep, it got me the y-intercept, 0, -26, so I'm good on that. I haven't figured out the x-intercepts yet, so hopefully I'll get there soon. But it told me that one of them is -2.27, 0, so I might as well write that down since I'm there. Oops. -4.6. Okay, so I must have messed up when I solved by completing the square. Okay, and then, you know, since I'm here, why don't I get the other x-intercept? So -5.73, 0. By the way, if I'm getting decimals, I know that I'm not going to be able to factor. So let me finish with this one. We got -4.6. So I must have done something wrong over there. Now, I want to go to the previous problem. Remember when I said for the x-intercepts, you should factor? But the problem is, when I divided this by -2, and I get x squared plus 8x minus 13 equals 0, I can't factor it. So I have two choices. I either have to do the quadratic formula or complete the square. So I will show you both so you can see. So x squared plus 8x plus 13 equals 0. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see both. And then x squared plus 8x plus 13 equals 0. This one I'll complete the square, and this one I'll do the quadratic formula. So I move that over, do my box, x squared, 4x, 4x, x4, x4, 4 times 4 is 16, so plus 16, plus 16. Okay, and then I get x plus 4 squared equals 3. And, ooh, I figured out what my mistake was. Here's my mistake. Remember a long time ago when I said when you solve by completing the square, if you divide out that -2, you have to bring it back. So if I multiplied that by 2, then I would get my 6. Okay, and that's where the mistake was. So now I'm solving square root, x plus 4 equals plus or minus rad 3. Minus 4. So I have x equals -4 plus or minus rad 3. So let me pick up my calculator and make sure I'm good. -4 plus the square root of 3, that's the -227. -4 minus the square root of 3, oops, and there's the -573. So I got the answer. All right, now the quadratic formula. A equals 1, B equals 8, C equals 13. Negative b plus or minus the square root of a squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. My issue is I'd rather take care of this first, so I'm going to bring it down. The square root of 64, multiply all of that, which is 52. And now square root of 64 minus 52 is 12. But you know I'm going to have to tree. 2, 6, 2, 3, 2, rad 3. Now, plus or minus -8 over 2. Now, some of you go, that doesn't look anything like that. But if you divide all of these by 2, that's -4, 1, and 1. That one is gone, and that one is gone. So it's -4 plus or minus rad 3. Remember when I said, sure, do the quadratic formula, but to me it's a last resort? That's why it's a last resort to me. Okay. So, all